Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the InQ podcast. This is episode number 4, and this one is an exciting one because I get to talk to Eri Neeman, who is a event host and talent from the Philippines, who exploded onto the esports and the Dota 2 scene through his work with ESL at the 2016 Manila event, and has since gone on to do a number of events with ESL, very large tournaments, hosting in Genting and Hamburg, Birmingham, Mumbai as well. And Ari is really a delightful individual. He's super, super well spoken, very passionate about what he does, both in the hosting world and also in his work as a sort of a wedding MC. He does MC events outside of the esports sphere as well. But we talked a lot about his sort of entry into esports and how that happened, how he sort of got in to working as talent at events. And we also talked a huge amount about his discovery process in Dota as somebody who is sort of kind of learning the game deeply for the first time um, over the last couple of years. And we talked about sort of what it means to be a newer player in Dota as far as somebody who's diving into it at this stage of the game's lifespan, and what is important for new players if you introduce them to the game or if you are starting to take the game seriously for the first time. And his insight was really, really um, good for me to see as somebody who's kind of been playing the game for a very long time and making content about it. And I do want to just say that this episode was filmed actually probably about a year ago now, that I did with Ari. And I just never really had the opportunity to release it. So I'm releasing it now. So some of the information in this is slightly outdated, but for the most part, everything that we talked about is relevant now. And I just want to thank Ari for being on, and I hope you guys enjoy the episode. So let's go ahead and get into it.
I'd love to honestly just hear your story. Um, I understand obviously you do a lot of hosting and just like general, like you do weddings and stuff like that, and you do hosting for events, and then you live in Manila, I assume, and so
Yes.
got the gig and hosted it. And so it's just like, what was your first impression? Was that the first time you ever saw Dota, like hosting that event?
No, I've actually been. I've been hosting for, man. I've been hosting for more than about maybe almost 15 years, and I was always actually into gaming since 2008. We had this show. I grew up playing. And that's why I was kind of very much. It's an industry I've always loved working in. And right now, it's like two industries I love. It's basically, weddings is obviously something I love doing, and esports and gaming. So it's basically these two industries I decided, I think, 3-4 years ago. I was like, all right, you know what? These are the industries I really enjoy. So I'm going to focus on these two industries. Mainly because weddings, I get to stay home, stay in the country. Because if you really want to make it in esports, you have to travel the world.
Right.
That's just how it is. If you want to make it, that's what it is. And when you have a family, when you're married, it's hard to balance. And for me, that's going to be hard for me. And I kind of want to see my son grow up, and I want to see my wife almost every day. So that's the decision I made. So, weddings enables me to make that decision.
Totally.
Because if I went, and I can definitely do that full on esports, and I know I could, it's just, I would have to travel the world.
Right.
To do that and make that viable. I'd have to go fly and live out a suitcase and live in hotels, and that's why I think talent is like family when you see them. You know what I mean? Because that basically becomes your family when you're traveling.
Sure.
And I see how everyone is so close, and I can understand that because these are the people you see most times of the year.
Yeah, you don't really have anybody else at that point.
No, man, it's hard. I give it to talent to really grind it this way, man. It's hard to balance like your career and your personal life. It's hard. And for me, I just knew that wasn't for me, but I love it. Like doing like 4 gigs a year or 5, let's say for ESL, or if I have any other things, but mainly I decided to commit to ESL. And I love it, man. I love it. It's that's for me the best thing. I do 4 to 5 events a year. And then I just, all the rest of the year I'm doing weddings in between, and for me that's the best.
Totally.
That's the best sort of setup for me. But I actually was always into. We had this show called Mog TV. It's kind of like Attack of the Show.
Okay.
type of setup here in the Philippines, and it was something I remember hosting for about 2-3 years. It was a lot of fun. Definitely beyond its. It lasted a decent amount of time considering we had no marketing, and it was great. It was super fun. But Dota started, I think, 2012.
Okay.
It was called MSI Beat It with Mineski. Mineski, of course, now known as Met Events.
Mhm.
They were basically at the forefront of pushing Dota in the Philippines, and of course now Southeast
Sure.
Asia. And now they're doing very, very well. I'm very close to those guys. I just played with the VP just like 2 days ago, like
Nice.
till like 6 in the morning, dude. Lon, you know Lon, like Lakad Matatag Lon. It's like Lon and
Yeah.
Duno, like those two guys. So I was playing with Lon, and I knew I've known Lon since 2012, man. And I said, Lon, I basically told him we've known each other since 2012. This is only the first time I'm playing Dota with you. This is actually the first time, like just a few days ago. And I'm
Wow.
actually playing Dota with you. And we've known each other for like 8 years. I think that was my impression with Dota, man. It's just I've never played RTS.
Mhm.
I mean, so I don't have the mechanical skills. Like I never got into Red Alert, StarCraft, not even Battle Realms, which were the big games here
Mhm.
in the Philippines growing up, like back in high school. But
So
yeah, man.
that's
I mean,
crazy. So like, because for me, I came from, I mean, when I grew up, like I got my first PC around probably like 12 or something like that, 14.
yeah.
And one of the first games that I had was StarCraft. So like I literally, that was like one of the first video games I played. It was StarCraft. And so I went StarCraft, Warcraft, Dota, basically.
Oh, dude, you just like, yeah, you got it. It's in your veins. It's in your veins.
So I'm curious, like when you see the map for the first time, like how do you deal with like you've got like a map, but then you also have a mini map of your map, and then you also have like a unit to control on the map, and then there's like so many different buttons to control your units and stuff too.
Bro, literally the first time I was watching, I was like, I loved what I was seeing. I loved the environment, but I had no idea what was happening. I
Mm.
like no idea. And it was like that for a decent amount of time. It was like that. Even in ESL, I was just like, of course, when you understand after watching it for a decent amount of time, but you still don't get the details of it, of why it was so good and why that was thing. But I mean, let's say they win a fight and you know the other team's winning, you're just like, oh my god, that's hype. You can ride that. That's easy. But in terms of these little details, and especially when I played, I'm like, again, Donnie, I hated it, bro. I hated it, man. And you know what's so funny? I've talked to other people who've been playing way longer than me,
Mhm.
and they pretty much hated their first time too.
Yeah.
I mean,
What about it did you hate the most? Like just how
I hate.
overwhelming it was to
I
just
just
do
hated
anything?
that I didn't know what to do.
Okay.
I just hated that. I mean, for me, I'm the type that when I'm gonna decide to really get into something, I actually want to be at least very decent at it. But if I really, really enjoy it, I want to be like the best version of what I can do with that thing. That's how I am.
Sure.
If I'm gonna dedicate my time to a hobby, I really want like this Dota. I mean, this big words, big goals, but I mean, I'd love to hit like high levels in the future, maybe divine or maybe immortal one day. That would be great.
Mhm.
But I know it's gonna take years, like to get there. And I can see the commitment. I can see the commitment that it takes to get there. But I mean, that's just the type of person I am. I really want to get into it properly.
Sure.
So that's definitely something I do want to work on, and to that level. But I just didn't know what to do, man. I just didn't know what to do, and that was for me like, I know I'm doing bad, but what's more frustrating than that is I don't know why I'm doing bad.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
That
You're just like
that was the
dying,
most
and you're like,
frustrating.
why does this keep happening? Like, and
Yeah.
then, sure. So from there, do you remember like the first time that you kind of felt like you got it a little bit? Like, what was like a fun game to you when you were kind of learning? Like, what actually made it
Uh,
enjoyable to stick with it? Because you have to
uh,
enjoy something a little bit, obviously, otherwise you're gonna just quit.
There was, well, I did kind of somewhat not really pursue it after I started 2016. I played off and on. And if I'm being honest, I mean, there were like some shining moments when I was playing like for that 4 years since 2016. But I would have to say, I would say it was just recently. It was just recently that I really got into it. And that was since I basically worked with Purge in that regard, which we basically did, man, like that was just like a few weeks ago.
Right. Yeah, I've seen a couple of your streams. I mean, Purge is obviously an incredibly good teacher for the game, and he's done this with several people in varying degrees, and it's always just like so much knowledge comes out in the sessions. And
no, but I watch all your videos. I like you guys, like Purge, your videos, Speed, like whichever like I try to get into just to learn. Like I recently just watched your video about the 5 supports, hard supports in the meta. And I was glad to see Oracle on S tier. I was just like, that is my boy. I love playing Oracle. Oracle is someone I vibe with very nicely.
Nice.
So I like playing that player. So I was like, okay, Oracle's S tier. I'm like, all right, this guy's fun. I love playing those heroes. So I mean, it's just like there's so much out there where you can learn. But what I've realized is there's information you're ready to learn, and there's information that you'd have to kind of just grind with to be able to understand well. You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah, 100%. Like, I mean, I talk about this a lot in my videos where just like sometimes you just have to put in hours because there is a lot of muscle memory and instinct that's involved in playing good Dota. And there's no like actual flow chart to a game, right? So you can't just be like, all right, you go here, then step 2 is to do this, then step 3 is to do this. Because while that might be true in an optimal setting, you almost never have an optimal setting.
I really hope this, now that I'm invested in the game, I really hope it lasts for a long time.
Right. I'm not gonna lie. Like as I've been building this YouTube channel, and then I went full time Dota like about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And pretty much every day since then, I've been like, do I have like another year? Like, how long is this game gonna last? Like, is Valve gonna kill it? There's always like that anxiety of like, are we gonna make it?
Man. I get it. I'm like, are we gonna be good? And I remember like talking to Slacks even. It's like, Slacks, what happens when let's say the game doesn't thing anymore? What happens? And he's like, oh well, you just die with the game, man. You just go down in the ship. That's what you do. And it's like such a Slacks thing to say.
Sure.
And I'm just like, but I understand it, and it's just the reality of games, man. Like you are at the mercy as well of the public, like Valve, and like you're just please take care of it. There's so many people, like heroes. That was just like heartbreaking, and you see something like that actually happening, and you're just like, oh man, that's just it's. I can understand, and now that I'm into the game and I'm invested. I really wanted to do well, and what I was so thankful for, after talking to Purge, after we did our whole session, I was like, Purge, the best thing about this is, I mean, honestly, the reason I did it, I'll tell you this, Donnie. The reason I got into it, I'm not gonna do something I don't enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not, and I was gonna give Dota a shot, and I said, all right, listen, you were a bit traumatized with how it started. It didn't really work out well. So you needed a good reason to kind of get into it. So I'm just like, all right, I dug deep, and I was just like, okay, what's something you love hosting? You love this community. Okay, you love entertaining them. You love doing memes. If you learn this game properly, you will be able to do all of that better.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just like, okay, that's gonna be my motivation. No matter how frustrating it's gonna get, you know what I mean? You're gonna go for it because this is something I've always wanted to do. It's just I never had the time with how busy events can get. But naturally, now we all have the time.
Sure.
So that was for me. I had to come up with a reason to push through the frustration I've known that you would go through with this game.
That's a really good point. I like that a lot because I think that's probably something that's missing for like 99% of the player base is they don't have an external motivation. They just have the MMR
Yeah.
and they just have like the leaderboard. And that's why you have a
And
lot
for
of
me,
really angry people because there's like
and,
there's nothing else except for frustration at that point, right?
and for me, that's, I think, that's not a very healthy reason to do it for. One of the things, like, those were the reasons I did it, right? I mean, you have to have a good reason to do it. And I remember I had a Reddit post where I had a little bit of a realization, and I'm gonna send that to you after we have our talk, but
Cool.
just for reference. But I realized, because there was a point where I get calibrated,
Mhm.
when I was, because I was uncalibrated, when I was doing this with Purge, and at the end, the last episode, we were just gonna be like, all right, I'm gonna calibrate myself.
Mhm.
We're gonna end it with that. So I calibrated to Guardian 5, right?
Mhm.
And the calibration games from that week, because I had to play 10 ranked games, right, to get calibrated, because there was a reset. Because I played before, but I mean, I played those ranked and it was only one to get calibrated. But apparently it was reset, so I needed to do 10. I was getting stressed out. And I realized there was a part of me that was basically making it about the MMR.
Mhm.
And when I finally got the game with Purge, we had really, really good momentum and everything. And just to go on a tangent a bit, he basically said he was giving me the key things, which I felt that were like the main things that would get any new player to understand Dota, at least properly. And he gave me 3 objectives. Actually, wrote it down. It's on my Google document.
Beautiful. A little peek
It's
inside
right.
the mind of Purge.
Yeah, he gave me a bit of a thing, and he said it was, and that was one of the key moments. And I remember we were talking about 5, right? And this was the key. This was a key one for me in that sense when we were talking. And this is just coming from like just a, yeah, there you go. The 3 most important things for Dota, and he basically said it was pushing lanes, pressuring enemy heroes, and be in the position that gives you the opportunity to engage.
Mhm.
Like those 3 things. Those 3 things. And I have sub points for all of that. But those were the main things. Pushing lanes, pressuring enemy heroes, and to be in the position that gives you the opportunity to engage. When I finally realized that myself, because that's when it was an aha moment for me.
Mhm.
That's when I started understanding the basic concept of what it takes to win. So pushing lanes, pressuring enemy heroes, and being in the position that gives you the opportunity to engage. So those 3 things, when I finally got that, when I finally understood that for myself, that's when I really started enjoying the game. And for me, I think this was the most important point for me. That was, I think, episode 3
Mhm.
with Purge. Because if I didn't come to value this myself, we would always go back and forth. And I said, Purge, this is the most important episode for us. Because if I didn't value this for myself, then we would just go back and forth.
Mhm.
It would end up being very, very frustrating. You'd have to get me to the right track. And it was these 3 things. Just pushing lanes in itself, just like get objectives.
Right.
That in itself. Like,
Otherwise, you
and
get
for
caught
me-
up in the vanity metrics, right? You get caught up in the kills and the last hits and the gold and what items you have and how much damage you're dealing. But none of that actually matters, right?
No, it exactly, Donnie. That's what it was. It didn't matter for me, or it's just your actions didn't serve purpose.
Mhm.
And because it didn't serve purpose, you don't get a decent amount of fulfillment. You know what I mean?
Sure.
The reward I feel was not aligned with the big picture of winning the game. You know what I mean? So these last hits, and here's the thing: you can have someone maybe not value these things, but last hit really well. Do these things really, really well. Actually, win team fights or, not die. But and probably better than me, but I don't think this person, you're not going to get fueled to push further. You know what I mean? Because you're going to end up hitting a wall and being frustrated.
Yeah. Just a little anecdote. I mean, like, one of the biggest things that I've been working on personally in my own games is the idea of trying to set up the conditions for the next fight as soon as the last one ends. So, and I picked this up because I was watching Dubu, the coach of Crazy and former MVP Phoenix.
Green guy, yeah, great guy, yeah.
And he was breaking down a replay between Secret and Navi, and Secret had won a fight, and Dubu was like, all right, now they need to go push out these 3 lanes because their ultimates are down, and by the time that the lanes are pushed out, then the other team will have to go deal with the lanes instead of just running at the heroes that have no ultimates. And so basically they were avoiding the next fight that they would certainly lose because they had no ultimates if they pushed out the lanes, because then the other team had to deal with a different objective than just running at their heroes. And so stuff like that is like what really makes the game cool to me, because it doesn't have anything to do with like damage.
Yeah, and that's rooted in these 3 objectives.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And the thing is, I think, and it got me to think, let's say if you look at the I don't know, I didn't cross-check it yet, but it made me think, I think if you're going to teach someone a game, this game, it's definitely, you have to help them value these 3 objectives or something close to it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, if I learned the mechanics of last hitting and I learned the mechanics of all of these other things, but I don't know what for, or it's not aligned in these 3 objectives, that's going to get you to get, that's going to get you to win the game, then there's no reward or there's no fulfillment with the actions. You know what I mean?
Right. You just fight and then the game goes back to status quo because nothing's actually progressed, right? There's just a fight that happened. Somebody won it. Doesn't matter because everybody just goes back to what they were doing beforehand. There's like no progress.
Or even if, like, let's say you fail at all things that are done within the game, but if it's someone, let's say you take a different player who values these 3 things, but even if they're bad at last hitting and they always die and everything, but they end up valuing these 3 things and they have it in their heart that, okay, these are what I needed to do, it's going to still fuel you forward because it's like, okay, I needed to do these things to achieve these objectives. I just did it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So even if you have someone really bad at team fights or any of the things, but he or she values these objectives, I feel that's going to still propel and fuel that person to push forward to get better at those things, rather than someone who ends up not valuing those things. Because I
got you. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
You know what I mean? Because you need to know what you're doing it for. You need purpose behind your actions. And you need to know, and that you need to be able to be fueled some shape or form or motivated in regards to why you're doing these things in game. Because if you're not, and there's no purpose behind the actions, and you only get that by valuing these 3 things, it got me to think, because I'm just like, does the game teach you this? Does Valve, did they put together a tutorial where it's like these 3 things? Because if you do that, regardless of your mechanical skills or skill level, you will eventually be motivated to get better.
Right, because you're actually playing, like, I guess that's a very good point, because the three things that you highlighted are really the core concepts of the game more than anything else, right? It's not about the heroes, it's not about the items, it's not about any of that. It's literally those are the 3 things that enable everything else that you're trying to do in the game.
That's it. Like you learn a hero, you learn whatever hero you want, but that hero will have a purpose because you value these objectives.
Sure.
These make what Purge would call the chain. Like, this is the chain that just gets things. And then when I got that, Donnie, man, I was just like, I enjoyed the game so much more.
Cool.
Regardless of my skill. And for me, I think that was the biggest thing. and however advanced I get eventually, it's always rooted in these three things. Or just, I mean, I'm sure it's paraphrased one way or another, but it was rooted in these three things. And I'm just like, I got it. And I enjoyed the game. And when you value, when your actions have purpose, that's when you're going to get enjoyment. That for me.
Very true.
Because
I mean, that holds true in life. So
yeah,
why not in
you
a
know what I
game?
mean?
Yeah.
No, that's it. I mean, sorry, I'm very thing like that because I like analyzing these little things that make it. I like analyzing the mental and emotional side of things. I've
Totally.
always been interested in that, and me and my wife are very much like that. So we like. So I like I told you my reasons why I did it, right, with Dota.
Mhm.
I was honest with myself. I needed that. And for me, I'm like, all right, if I'm going to really get the good at this game, I need to really enjoy it and do it for the right reasons. The same way I've done it with pool, because I play a lot of pool.
Okay.
I do. Actually, I've been able to win
Oh,
championship right there. That's right.
Nice.
For class O and A. I'm class A right now, which is basically divine.
Okay.
And class O is like immortal. And anything above that is like professional.
Gotcha.
So
okay. Cool.
So I read this book, Donnie, called The Inner Game of Tennis by Timothy Galloway. I don't know if you've heard about the book.
I don't know if I've heard that one specifically. I'm currently listening to the book called Mind Gym by Gary Mack. I have a friend who was a professional baseball player in the major leagues that wrote a book about the mental game and flow state and stuff like that. So I'm this is my shit, pardon my French, but like this is what this is actually why I got into esports, is because I played baseball all the way through college, and
Nice.
I wanted to be a professional baseball player for my entire life, basically. And then
Nice.
it didn't work out, but I've coached sports, I've played sports, I've been coached. Like, this is what I lived. And I noticed that in esports, it's just a bunch of kids who have no coaching, no semblance of like structure to how they're approaching the game.
Same. It's the same.
But they're doing the same stuff, right? So all you
Yes.
have to do is introduce some of the concepts that I learned from sports, like coaching and support staff and like mental game and physical game. And all of these players that are in esports will like 10x their potential in the sport.
I agree. And I've applied all the concepts that I've learned to getting better at pool to Dota.
Yeah.
That's what I've been doing. And it works, bro.
Yeah.
It works. Yeah.
I believe it.
So I read this book, The Inner Game of Tennis by Timothy Galloway. And again, so that's it. Like these 3 points, if you're talking about aha moment, bro, this was the most aha moment for me.
Mhm.
And I realized like I would not enjoy the game. And this is for all beginners out there. You have to value what it takes to win. Because even if you get good at last hitting, even if you get good at team fights, even if you get good at all these things, if you don't value these objectives or these core concepts of what it takes to win, your actions serve no purpose. And you won't get the emotional reward. You know what I mean?
Totally.
It's kind of like praying. Like if you're going to church and you don't really believe in God and you're praying, your prayers don't serve purpose. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's the same thing. And you take away the fulfillment and the enjoyment of these actions that you've taken so much time. And it has to be you that values it. You can't be someone that tells you have to do things and you're like, yeah, all right. You're not going to give yourself that emotional fulfillment and that enjoyment. And you have to truly value it. You have to say, I get it. These are the things that it takes to win. These 3 things. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm sure there are like maybe 3K, 4K, 5K players that are maybe very, very, I don't know. Maybe even let's say 2K, 3K players.
No, you can go as high as you want. Like there's like rank 500 immortal players that are terrible at the game. They're just very mechanically skilled. Like
really?
Yeah.
And would you? I don't know. You would know this, Donnie, better than I do. Do they value these things? Like what we just talked about, these 3 objectives, what it takes to win, or the core concepts?
Probably more so than a divine player, probably more so than an ancient player, but at the core concept, no. Like when I talk to Jenkins, when I would talk to, you hear it from like BSJ, you hear it from these pros that are now analysts, Kyle, Cinderin.
Yes.
they have so many stories of playing pub games with people that are maybe even higher rated than them that just have
Yeah.
no idea. Like they just
Are
have
you
no idea.
serious?
Yeah. They're just clueless. Like they're
No.
you know, here's the thing, like you can get really high MMR if you just play really broken heroes and last pick them over and over and over. You know, that happens a lot. There's a lot of people in the Immortal bracket who are just they pick Broodmother and Huskar and Meepo last pick every single game. And
And they get high.
if you're doing that, you know, you can probably win 60% of your games, if not more. And over time, that's going to put you in a mortal bracket. But do they know why they're there? You know,
No.
Huskar, he's very good at taking objectives. Meepo, very good at taking objectives. Broodmother, very good at pressuring
Yes,
heroes and
push
taking
lanes,
objectives.
push lanes, yes.
These heroes do the 3 core tenets, right, of winning Dota, and they do them very, very well, and they do them in kind of like a solo style, more so
Yes.
than many other heroes do. But do the players actually understand what they're doing? Maybe, but maybe not. And definitely in a lot of cases, especially, you know, as you go below the top 500, once you're in just like general immortal, once you're in divine,
Yeah.
people are just doing random stuff, and it works out for them more than it does for other people, like legitimately.
Interesting. But because they're more mechanically skilled than understanding the objectives, basically.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's actually mind-blowing, honestly. Like,
it's fascinating. I actually played a game today where I had, so I'm sure that Purge has kind of explained to you how like supports kind of control the early stages of the game, and then they pass it off to their cores, who then carry them, right?
yes, they pull, they have to do all these things, make sure that, you know, your core gets experience.
Right.
Yeah,
but it's the support. The supports control the early game, right?
Okay. Yes.
I mean, you've kind of experienced that, right? You've seen that, like the supports, because of, you know, their spells, they're harassing, they're pulling, they're manipulating waves, they're moving around the map.
You're right.
And
Because that makes sense. Yeah, you're right. Because if not, then your cores can't get formed. Like,
Right.
I mean, if you don't do these things, your cores can't get stronger. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
And you also notice that a lot of the supports happen to have like really strong spells at level 1 and 2, right? They've got
Yes.
stuns, they've got lots of damage, they're very good at hitting heroes with their spells, but then that kind of
Yes.
falls off as the game goes along.
Yes.
But in those early stages, they tend to be very strong. And
Yes.
so I had somebody in my game, and I'm 5K, so I'm not you know, a super high level immortal player, but I'm 5K. I'm okay at the game.
That's very good, dude. Yes.
And my support in my game, who's probably also around 5K, because, you know, matchmaking, he literally said to me, I don't care about the early game. He's a support. He's like, I don't care about the early game. It's not the job of the supports to do anything
my
in the early
God.
game. And I was just like, how are you in my bracket? Like, how is this something that
Okay.
exactly?
Wow. That's so interesting. And here's the thing, man. The realization that when you have people like that, I almost feel I don't want to say sad for them. It's just that you can enjoy the game so much more if you just start valuing these things.
Yeah.
You'll have so much more enjoyment. Like, and for me, it's about enjoyment. I mean, why do something you don't enjoy? You know what I mean?
Agreed.
I mean, so that's mind blowing that they get this far ahead in the game and in MMR, but they don't value these 3 core concepts. And I was just like, and man, I'm 1 to 70 right now because I lost a bunch. I calibrated at 1,400.
Mhm.
But I'm enjoying the game, man. I'm like happily like, figuring these things out. And because I value what it takes to win, I'm like, all right, this is inarguable. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's inarguable, right? You cannot argue against these 3 things. I mean, or is it arguable?
No, I mean, basically, so the 3 are, once again, to repeat them, it's pushing lanes,
pressuring enemy heroes.
Yep.
Pressuring enemy heroes, and be in the position that gives you the opportunity to engage.
Right. And I would say you could probably even simplify that third one as to just like play to your team.
Like I mean,
right?
That's it. Yeah, play to your team. It's just the words that resonated for me, so
Sure.
That's why I used this wording, because I'm like, I was in the moment. I'm like, all right, this is how I got it, so I'm gonna write it like that.
Totally.
So Yeah, man. And would you say that these are core concepts that, like, for Dota, for the game of Dota at the very least, or let's not say MOBA, but let's say,
Yes.
Dota in itself, is that these are foundations, right?
Yeah, I would probably add one final one, which is that.
Please.
And I think that this is very important, and maybe it's potentially wrapped up in one of the other ones, because those could be,
Yes.
fairly general. But I would say that if you do choose to engage, it has to be for a purpose. That's the biggest, because it has to be a fight at an objective. It has to be a fight to take over a part of the map. There's no, like, that's probably one of the biggest things that people do wrong, because they see other heroes and they just run at them, and it could be in the middle of the map, it could be on their side of the map, it could be on the enemy side of the map. It doesn't matter. They're just going to run at the heroes. But if you actually consciously say, we're fighting here because if we win the fight, we take this tower.
We take this tower, yeah.
Right.
Or we fight here, then what we can do is we hopefully get the Medusa and stop him from farming, and we get to ward their jungle. Something like that.
Exactly.
I love that. I'm writing it down, Don. I'm opening my Google Docs and I'm writing it down, man. And okay, so we went on a tangent, right? With these things. And one thing I just wanted to share, because you said, like, what were those aha moments? And for me, the second most important one, if not as important as these three objectives, and I think has kept me going. And I wrote this on Reddit. I thought it was very, very important, because I thought, I mean, but I'm 33 years old, man. I'm a dad, I'm a father. So, you see these people younger, who are a little bit younger than you kind of want to share.
Man. Hell yeah.
You want to share and kind of guide them, because I was that kid once, and I know how it plays to play, to grow up playing. You know what I mean? It's a different world right now, but I think it's more or less the same. That's why I love this industry so much, because when I see, like, these, the younger generation, these who I was 18 once, I was 16, I was 14 once playing games, and you kind of just can relate, because it's kind of like some shade of form you when you were younger. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that's why I can connect to these guys so easily, because I'm just like, oh man, this is basically me growing up. So what I realized when I was calibrating, I was starting to not enjoy. I was starting to get a bit frustrated, and I'm not an easily frustrated. I don't get frustrated easily. And I was starting more importantly, not to enjoy the game. And I took a step back. I'm like, why am I not enjoying what's going on? It's like, oh, fuck, you're playing ranked. You're worrying about your rank. That's it. Because you want to make sure that you play well, so that you calibrate to a good rank. And the reason you're doing that is you want to calibrate to a decent high rank. You at least want to get Archon or something like that to calibrate there. That would be great. And basically, it's a very vain reason. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's vanity. And I'm going to reference what I learned with The Inner Game of Tennis by Timothy Galloway. And since this is something you're interested in, I shared this as well when I was working with Purge. And he said that the key thing, there are two selves when you're playing, self 1 and self 2. Self 1 is basically your mind, and self 2 is your body. The key is when you need to make those, you have to make sure that self 2 just takes over. Because what he says is your body is already designed to do amazing complex things. Like driving in itself, he referenced when I was listening to the audiobook. He said that already takes so much coordination, decision making, looking at your surroundings. Just standing up and walking takes so much coordination and all these, little brain, jolts that get you to do that action. Your mind is a very complex and amazing miracle of a thing. It has the ability already to do all of these things naturally. And what you talk about flow and being able to go instinctual, right? Mm-hmm. He said when you have to let your body take over, you have to let self 2 take over in order to reach peak performance. And the first thing that usually gets in the way of performing and letting yourself to take over is self one, your mind, basically. And he said the first key thing to get to that place, and he highlighted this very well, and this takes a bit of a journey and some self-assessment and honest reflection to, I feel, do authentically and truly, is you have to remove judgment from what you do. You know what I mean? You simply have to look at things as they are. Remove judgment in what you do, even either if it's negative or positive. And he need tennis, like tennis, for example. He said when let's say you hit a serve and you fault, right? You double fault for some reason. The person who served would be like, oh, you know what I mean?
Right.
That was frustrating, right? And he said, I don't like that action. And his opponent, he's just like, oh, I like that action.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
So you've attached a positive and negative meaning to that action. If you double fault, it's bad. Henceforth, you'll have this dialogue in your head like, oh, that was fuck. That was horrible. And eventually, if you keep going that direction, and if you keep adding these meanings to your actions, like when you double fault, let's say you're practicing, you miss a serve, and you're just like, oh, that sucks. I'm like, oh, your grandma can do better than you. And then eventually you have this dialogue when you because you put meaning to these things. Eventually be like, okay, that's horrible. And eventually he says you're going to get to the point where you're like, I am no good. You know what I mean? I suck. You know what I mean? And then eventually when you start saying that to yourself, you're going to start to believe it, and you're going to be able to, you're just going to have such a negative energy and aura towards the game. You know what I mean? And here was a really interesting thing as well. It's just as bad with positive reinforcement. Isn't that so interesting?
Yeah.
He said, because if you say, oh, that was good, that was amazing, I feel great, I want to do this again, you know what I mean? I'm going to repeat that action. You know what I mean? I'm going to get all my last hits, I'm going to freaking get my
go on a win streak.
Right? Yeah, I'm going to go on a win streak, you know what I mean? I'm going to hit my echo perfect. I'm going to blink echo perfectly. You know what I mean? You put positive things, it will then pressure you into make sure that you repeat those things.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Of
so
course.
what's going to happen there is you're going to end up pressuring yourself so that when you fail, if you fail doing that blink echo or whatever you want to do or getting that win streak, you then will fall. You'll have a bit of a fall and a drag down. You know what I mean? So that for me was also very mind-blowing. I was just like, so positive is just as bad as negative because you're setting a precedent of an ideal action. And he said that the best thing to do is to simply look at things as they are. Just remove judgment. You hit the fault? Yeah, okay. Why? Because maybe you hit the net, double faulted. Maybe something happened. You were dropping your elbow. There was a reason to that action. And that's basically it. You have to remove judgment from your actions to be able to quiet yourself, which is your mind, so that you're just focused on just these things. It basically said that there's no good or bad. You simply have to look at things as they are.
Sure.
And for me, that was mind blowing. And when I learned that, I won a tournament, bro.
There you go.
So after I read, and here's that thing. I'm just gonna get this trophy because I'm so proud of it.
Do it. Do
One
it.
second. So the thing here is, so this was a 9-ball tournament, right? So there it is. So I was a champion. It was class O, class A. This is the highest level, the highest rank. It's O, and O is the highest level. If you're O, that's like the highest level. People can basically put up a decent fight against pros. When I won, I'm gonna share this story, and I shared. People start calling you champ when you become a champion. Like there's a community in pool as well, and it's wonderful. It's just like Dota. It's in any other game or sporting thing. There's a community here, and when you walk into the pool room, they start calling you champ, Donnie. And that feels really good, bro.
Uh-huh.
Like hey champ, I'm just like, yeah, and inside your head, if you're gonna be honest with yourself, like, oh, that feels good being called champ. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And when you play other people, there's this intimidation, just like, oh, I'm gonna lose. Tahichi just won a tournament last week. You know what I mean? And you're just like, I like this intimidation. This feels good. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I was shooting, and I remember being in that. I was in the zone when I was playing that tournament because I just remembered to just stick to that. You know what I mean? But when I got all these external things coming at me after I won the tournament, I lost my game, bro.
Mm-hmm.
I lost my game, man, because I loved what it meant. And I'm just like, oh, you're playing good. And why are you playing good? Oh, maybe because, I got this. I got my stroke good. I got this book. I'm doing really, really well. You know what I mean? And what happened then is I lost my game for a decent amount of months.
Mm-hmm.
And it was incredibly frustrating to be able to be in that zone and play that well because I basically attached this sort of positive meaning in a sense, and I got attached to those results and I wanted to repeat it. And when I missed a ball I usually didn't miss, then it's when like, all right, you're messing it up, what's going on? Okay, no, just get back, you're fine, you're good, you already won a tournament, you got it, stuff. And there was this mental thing, man. It was a cycle that started, and what happened is I lost my game for a good amount of months, and I only was able to get it back when I went back to the basics and I just started looking at, and there was a long amount of judgment, man. I was like, what's wrong? You won a freaking tournament. You already did this, man. You got this. This is the time to get better and to get to the next level. You know what I mean? That's what I was telling myself.
Yeah.
You can already you're going to be O plus, because that was my goal for myself. You're going to make it O plus. You just won an A plus. You're going to make it to O plus. You're going to do this. And the more I was thinking that way, the more I dragged down, and the more I really just, my game was not the same ever since. And it all started because of that thought process. And I judged myself, and I put these positive meanings to my game. And I only was able to do it when I took a step back and I was honest with myself. Okay, what are you doing? Oh man, I think you're just. And I have that. I know. I mean, I liked having conversations and reflecting, and the only way that I was able to really kind of get out of it was when I was really honest with myself. I'm like, all right, you know what? Maybe you're kind of thinking about the wrong things so much. Because even if you know these concepts, Donnie, you really have to truly kind of have it in you to do it genuinely. You know what I mean? Because if you tell yourself, oh, I'm going to remove judgment from my head because you know that's the right thing to do, but you're saying it to yourself, you know what I mean? It's kind of like saying relax, you know what I mean?
It doesn't actually work very well.
It doesn't actually work. No. It's like you have to relax, you know what I mean? You have to relax. And you're just like, you're thinking about relaxing, which is getting you to not relax. You know what I mean? It's just the same thing. It's a very complicated thing, and I think most people don't even think about it, or just tend to just want to shy away from it because it's frustrating, but it's worth looking into, you know what I mean? And I think the best players, I think, in any field or in any game, I think about it really, really well. OG is one example. I had a 3-hour conversation with Seb.
And, oh my God. Talking to him is
he's wonderful. We had a 3-hour conversation about these mental things, and he sees it. He has an understanding of it.
Right.
And I think it's partly the reason why I think that team has reached the level. What he was
100%. I spoke with him at the Boston Major at the after party for like 20 minutes about this. And, coming from my sporting background, and I just we were just like mind meld talking about this. And I was just like, this guy is going to be so successful because he understands what it takes to compete.
Yes.
Yeah.
He gets it, bro. And he gets these concepts in his own way, but he gets it. He gets the core things of it. And what he was doing by talking to his team the way he did, if we're watching True Sight, TI8, right? What he was doing, talking to his team, guys, to forget about it, focus. He was getting them out of their heads.
Yep.
That's what he was doing. And you notice there was a contrast between them and LGD.
Yeah.
There was a moment when they were supposed to win game 3 or game 4. I think it was game 4, right? They were supposed to win. That was LGD's game. And I think it was Earth Spirit that came in. There was this play. at Radiant that got them to win the game, right? It was Jerax who did this crazy play. I just can't remember what it was. But basically, LGD was supposed to get game 4, right? It was either game 4.
Yeah, they were supposed to win 3 and 4 and 5. To be honest,
they were supposed to. But I think the biggest one was 4.
4, definitely.
Because that was the rally. That was the rally to come back for LGD. They were supposed to win 4, but they lost. And because they were supposed to win 3, they were like, all right, let's get serious. You know, that was that thing. They were supposed to win 4 and something happened. And I think the biggest loss, and I remember talking to Purge about this as well. The biggest loss was when FY went to his coach and said, look what happened when you did this, or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but it was part of True Sight. And the coach stayed silent. He was just like, and he just kept walking.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And if you contrast what Seb was doing and what their coach was doing, he was not dealing with those emotions that was causing these people. Obviously, had this frustration that you lost a game that badly.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't getting him out of their heads. And I think ultimately that's when things kind of went inside out for LGD. And that's for me, okay? And I'm not even thinking, for me, because I value these emotional things, these little things that get you to get to that place. I think that ultimately for me was the reason they lost.
I agree. Yeah, it was 100% a mental loss. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, because if they were both peak performance, you can see games where both teams are just in the moment and in the zone, and it's amazing to see.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Imagine LGD OG when both were just in the moment and in the zone. Oh my God. If that was an historical, it would have just blown everyone out of the water.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If it was just LG to LGD, it would just be split-second decision-making. Whoever just did it faster than the other would win the game. You know what I mean?
I mean, earlier that TI, when they played Liquid, and Liquid looked really good. And then I think it was in the upper bracket, and LGD 2-0'd Liquid, and both of the games were over in like 25 minutes. And I don't think I've ever seen better Dota played in my entire life. Like,
it was that.
Yeah.
It was that.
LGD, I was like, there is no way any team beats this team. Like, I've never seen a team play better Dota, ever.
Wow. Wow.
It was so dominant. And like, so they obviously had the ability to do that.
So if that LGD showed up at the grand finals, you think it would have been a different case?
Yes.
Really? It would have been. And that's the thing, right, bro? That was the thing. Like,
and I think they did, is the thing. I think they did show up in game 1, and I think they showed up in game 2, and then they started to break because
that's it.
OG did what you're kind of talking about, which is that instead of, basically how Dota works is it's a game of mistakes.
Yes.
Right? There is no perfect game. It's impossible to play
capitalizing on mistakes. Yes.
Exactly. So inevitably, no matter how good you are at the game, you will make a mistake.
You will.
It doesn't matter if you're the best player in the world or the worst player in the world. You're going to make mistakes.
You will.
And so the thing about OG is that they just didn't care about mistakes, and LGD did.
Yes. That's it. And they eventually paralyzed themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And they just didn't move as well as, they were supposed to. And people are saying, this, but it's that mental hesitation that might give you maybe half a second of execution than you're supposed to. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Or even like a second. Let's say a full second of hesitation could be already the match, right?
Yep.
And at this high level, it's those little minute things or these little micro things that's going to get you to win the game. And just like you said, OG didn't care. They were flowing, bro.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see it. They were just there. They were in the moment. They were enjoying themselves. And I think that's it. I love that. I respect the amount of time that they've taken to do that. And they valued it when they started investing on a sports psychologist.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Same one for Astralis. I'm just like, when they did, I'm like, these guys could win again.
Yeah, I had the exact same reaction. As soon as I heard that, I was like, these guys are going to win. It's not even close. They're the only ones that actually understand what's going on in the competition of these pressure moments. Like,
and I've spoken to all these teams. I've been around them for a good amount of years. I've been around EG, all of these guys in tournaments. And I think OG really is the closest to valuing these things out of all the teams. And that's why they're doing so well. And I think it's just only going to be a matter of time while everyone else starts thinking about these things in esports. The same way in sports. Sports, NBA, dude, a lot of people know these things. I mean, they come to value it to a certain point. But it's so hard to be able to master because it takes self-awareness. It takes knowing what you do, what you're doing and what you're not doing. It takes really a good amount of self-awareness to be able to pull this off properly. And you really have to just value those things to be able to do it properly. And OG is the type that when I talk to them, like, these are guys who know themselves and who know their teammates.
Yep.
When I spoke to them, I interviewed them a few times. I'm like, No-Tail, Anna, Jared, the way they talk, OG, I was talking to them, like, these are guys, they know themselves and they know their teammates.
Mm-hmm.
And they know how they just know them. They know each other and themselves more than others. But there's a difference. I can see the difference, and I can feel the difference when they speak. So, and look at where they are now. And you know what's so thing? This is the highest level of Dota. They've achieved these things. I think this is where you get, at this state of mind, the best sort of enjoyment.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
No-Tail has more fun than anybody else. No-Tail is having more fun playing the game than anybody else. Period.
Now. More so now. And I think they've come to this right thing because they're valuing these things that I can see No-Tail. Because when you win the first TI, I think it's two things. If you're valuing just playing the game and enjoyment, just being in the moment, you're going to keep wanting to keep going that way. But I think if you value MMR, and there are people like that, Donnie, at the highest level.
Yeah.
If you value MMR and just, being the best you can be in a sense where you're just like, I'm the champion, I'm this, those are the things you value. Once you get it, you're going to lose. That's it. You might lose purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You might lose motivation. You know what I mean? And even if they're unhealthy reasons for what I feel, some people have gotten to the highest level just by MMR or just wanting to be the champion. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But I think when you have someone like No-Tail and OG in the team, or maybe just No-Tail in itself, he just loves the game and playing it the best possible way he can and express himself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He can express himself as a player truly because he doesn't care about all these things that would get you just self-absorbed or vain or just these external, let's say shallow. It's a bit shallow, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't want to call it shallow, but maybe in a way that just doesn't give you much meaning, you know what I mean, or fulfillment, I guess.
Sure.
I don't think he's gonna be the type that will continually enjoy the game until he retires, if he just continues this way.
Yeah, I can see that.
I feel, and when you win a championship, now I think one way or another, because I mean, a championship matters regardless of what you value and what you don't, right? I think No-Tail is just going to have the most fun now than he's ever had. Because
the strings are fully off at this point, right?
It's just like, fuck, now he can just do things he's always wanted to do. You know what I mean?
He's playing
I'm gonna
Earthshaker 5. He's diving tier 3s at 4 minutes into the game right now.
He's just trying shit. I'm just like, you know what? I'm done. I did it, man. So I can just express myself differently. I can try new ways. And that's a guy who truly, truly loves the game so much to its core. He loves it. You can feel it, man. He loves the game. He's just so happy. And I'm honestly happy for him because I think that's a prime example for, I think, the proper mentality and attitude towards the game.
Mm-hmm.
And because it doesn't matter if you've won TI or thing, 5K, or maybe you're just 6K or everything. I mean, everyone has their levels that they reach, regardless. You can enjoy yourself, man. You're going to enjoy yourself. And honestly, I'm Guardian 5. I think I'm Guardian 4 now because I dropped a bit. But for me, these are the things I value. And when I reflected, when we're going back to that conversation with rank, right? I said I was not enjoying myself. And I needed to be honest with myself. I'm like, all right, I can see what I'm doing. So I'm valuing rank too much. I'm valuing MMR too much. And I want to be happy, man. I'm just that the type. I mean, I just want to be happy and I want to enjoy. So I shifted and I was also honest with myself. The moment I stopped focusing on my MMR and wine rack, and I just focused on the things that happened on that game, that's when the frustration melted away. And I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna focus on what did you do wrong? You know what? You weren't hitting your last hits when you were pulling. That's one thing. Because if you just hit all your last hits, you'd be closer to getting level 4 at that point. Maybe you could have helped a little bit better. I'm like, that's something. Okay. Then I got excited. I'm like, I want to work on my last hits.
Right. Suddenly you're learning again instead of just like
you know
complaining,
what I mean?
basically, right?
Instead of just trying to attach value towards my actions, like self-worth toward, and that's what I said. I wrote this thing on Reddit. I said my main point was like, your MMR or how you are in ranked or how you do in a game should not be attached to your self-worth.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And because if you do, you might end up going in a very unhealthy route. And one day, even if you're really, really high level, on days or weeks that you're doing bad, you're gonna look at yourself as not worth shit. You know what I mean? And you're gonna also in turn treat other people the same way. Like, oh man, you suck. And honestly, one thing that I find very, very unhealthy, not just with Dota, and with other games, and I think in most games, they have this way of looking at noobs. There's this superiority.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, you're a noob, whatever, report. And for me, I'm just like, I feel so bad for these guys. And for me, I'm okay, man. You can tell me these things because I value these things. I'm going to be all right. But for other players who don't necessarily have the same sort of mentality or attitude towards things, I just see that if you're like, let's say, ancient looking down, everyone under you are just like, oh, you suck. Like this, you know what I mean? I'm not saying that's all of them. You know what I mean? I'm saying that there's a certain attitude towards, oh, you suck, report them thing. There was this jug who was horrible just a few days ago, and he was just like, please report me, sort of thing. I know I didn't do as well as I did. Just report me. And I'm just like, dude, don't worry about it, bro.
He was asking to be reported by the team.
He was asking to be reported, and I felt so bad. I'm like, the kind of words that were probably thrown at you, bro. And honestly, listen, to everyone who's like in a really good place and really good, if you want this game to last longer than it should, I mean, you have to care about these noobs, man.
Yeah.
You do, because they're the future. Your kid is going to be a herald. You know, your little brother, your sister is going to be a noob, man. And they're going to go through these things. When you foster this sort of attitude, you're just creating an environment and a cycle that maybe one day someone you care about is going to get into, and is going to get that sort of, abuse and sort of, I don't want to say abuse, but I guess you can call it abuse as well.
Yeah.
But that's sort of, they're going to take that, and it's unhealthy. And honestly, what you're doing, you love this game, right? You're killing it earlier than it's supposed to. You know what I mean?
Sure.
You're taking the lifespan away. Noobs are the lifeblood, are going to be the long-term lifeblood of any game. When you have noobs coming in, that's a really good thing, man. So I mean, seriously, hug a herald, dude. Seriously, man. I mean, it's just
true.
That's what I think, and I think it's not just with Dota. It's with all these so many other titles. What I feel, it's the same, and I think the attitude towards noobs, quote unquote, is not very healthy. Yeah. And I think because noobs were treated that way, when they start getting better, they're going to treat noobs. It's kind of like that whole, you're a rookie, you're a rook, you know what I mean? That sort of thing. I don't think that's healthy. I think there's a good significant part of any sporting or competitive community that's like that. And I don't believe that's healthy. But there's also a wonderful nurturing part like you. Like a lot of people who like nurturing the next generation of players. And I think if you have that more than you don't. And that's a question, Donnie. Do we have it more than you don't? Are we more discouraging than we are encouraging as a community? Because you would know better than I do. It's just, I'm just basing it off my limited experience.
It's hard to say, and that's one of the reasons that I wanted to talk to you about this, because I've been playing the game since release. Really, like I had beta access. I didn't play consistently, obviously, but
yeah,
and I played Dota 1. So I don't remember what the learning process was like. It was too long ago. but everything that I hear is that it's not very good. The tutorial is non-existent. The resources are pretty non-existent, outside of like people actually doing research and finding
They have to
videos,
look.
right?
Like you guys. They have to look into you guys.
Right.
They have to look into you guys to learn the game. Go on. Yeah, I'm
And-
listening.
And so, I don't know, and even for myself, trust me, I get plenty toxic in games and call people bad because they don't know as much as me, and I shouldn't do
Yeah.
that. But it's just like it goes back to that frustration. Obviously, that's never going to happen if I'm just caring about the core tenets of the game. But
Yeah.
over time, the frustration builds for people. I think there's just kind of like this cycle now where people have invested so much time, like the upper echelons, at least in ours, have invested so much time, and then there isn't really any. Maybe they've forgotten why they initially liked the game,
And that's normal.
Yeah, and so like for me, what initially and still draws me to Dota is it has like unlimited creativity. I see. We're still seeing somebody played Ember Spirit position 5 like a month ago in a professional game and won. Like
Ember
how?
Spirit.
Yeah,
We just had Sniper 4 last night.
Sniper 4. Like how is this stuff still happening?
Knife.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
it's bananas. That's what makes the game so awesome. And until you see moments like that, I feel like a lot of people forget that that's the purpose of the game. The game is for you to basically figure out how to break the game by doing something
Or
weird.
express yourself.
Right.
Just express yourself. You're like, what? I want to do this. That's
Yeah.
it. I'm gonna do. Yeah.
And yet that's like the number one thing that people complain about. You're not picking a meta hero. Why would you pick this hero? Why would you go that item build? Because everybody's forgotten that the game is about creative expression instead of winning.
Everything is. All games are. I mean, at the end of the day, you just want to truly express yourself, but it's hard to do that when you value all these things that we've just discussed. You know what I mean?
Yep.
If you value it in a way, and I think those values, and that's hard to teach, and that takes a while, and that takes a conscious decision from. It would take a long time to reverse because honestly, society and everything, it doesn't really nurture these sort of things. You know what I mean?
True.
It's a dog eat dog world. I mean, it's a whole different conversation.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I mean, the world doesn't necessarily encourage, this sort of thing. I mean, you do well, you don't. Either you're better, you're at this level, you're this. There's an economic ladder. And it takes self-awareness and taking a step back to really kind of detach yourself from those sort of values, those sort of things, which I feel are wrong values.
Totally.
But for me, I think you were asking me is how was it like that for me? I think the best thing you can do is it's going to be hard to change the community. But if you can do it like one person at a time, where basically you start with yourself, then you'll in turn start affecting everyone else. You know what I mean?
Right. You just have to set an example, right? At the end of the day.
That's it. And at the end of the day, for me, it's just, I mean, I can't do anything about this guy just calling me a noob and just saying and everything. But my response to them, I have control over. You know what I mean? And how I respond to those people, I do have control over. And there are honestly some instances where I am just being really nice. I'm just like, I mean, I'm just not putting them down. Like this guy, and I'm not saying I'm a really good player. I'm Guardian 4, but there's some people that you meet that kind of don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just like that jug just a few weeks, please report to him. Like, no, don't worry about it, man. Just learn from this. You learn from this and you eventually get better. Because I was there one time where I had no idea. You were there one day. You, at one point, Shaper, you were there.
Totally.
So, I mean, that's not something, I don't want to be put down. You know what I mean? I don't want to be already, frustrated more at myself than I already am. It's like, no, listen, man, just enjoy, just learn from this, watch your replays, don't worry about it, And he was really, you can feel at least from the one screen, from your screen to whatever's, wherever he is in the world, like, I think he feels a bit better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's great.
I was just going to say, I can't even tell you like how almost just relieved I have been at the end of some games where somebody made a mistake and then somebody other than me was like, it's all right, guys, let's go over here. And then and then it's just like, okay, that could have been the game. Like this carry died really in a stupid way. It could have been everybody blaming him and then the game's over. Even though we're like 20k ahead, the game's over because he doesn't want to play anymore. But
or they, what I hate right now is like GG.
Yeah.
You know, they type GG. I'm like, come on.
But instead,
bro.
he was like, "Oops." The guy was like,
Oh.
"Hey, that's cool. Let's go over here." And I was like, "Yes, right." And then the game ended, and everybody typed GG, and we went on to the next one, and it was a beautiful experience. And that's what I want my Dota games to be like.
Yeah, it's great. But the thing is, you have control over that.
Exactly.
I mean, you have the control to respond that way. And honestly, I'll say now, it feels better to respond that way rather
100%.
than not. You know what I mean? If I say, okay, you suck, or even if I'm saying it to myself, oh, you suck, man, or like, all right, he doesn't know what he's doing, or stuff like that. Even that internal dialogue kind of just drops the enjoyment a few notches down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you really, even if you don't type it, but if you start thinking it, you're just like, okay, he doesn't know what he's doing. And then you're starting to have this negative vibe towards one of your teammates. It takes the enjoyment out of you. You're just like not enjoying the game as you should. But if you truly say that inside your head, but if you're just like, that's all right. If you really mean like, it's all right, he'll learn it, he'll be okay. And shit happens, you know what I mean? Or if you just, don't attach yourself or don't have that internal dialogue about this other person, you're really gonna enjoy that game more, man.
Yeah.
You're gonna enjoy yourself more. And I think it's that sort of mindset that I think that would be really, really healthy. And you know what? I'm gonna share it, man. One moment I had my aha moment with pool. This was my aha moment with pool that I'm applying with Dota. And I think this is the reason why I think I'm able to move forward with this sort of attitude, regardless of my level, is I realized the difference of what it was when I was enjoying myself and how it was when I was not enjoying myself. That was the biggest thing for me. The difference, seeing the difference was the biggest moment. And I remember because I was really kind of fixated on getting high in rank. I wanted to associate myself with the best. You know what I mean? It's a very human nature thing. It's normal. Like I want to associate myself with the big boys. You know what I mean? I want to be shoulder to shoulder with these guys. I want to have conversations and play games with them. I don't care losing. I just want to play with them.
Right.
You know what I mean? I just want to be associated with the best. And I think that's human nature. You got to accept that about all of us have that. It's just either you let it take over, or you let it don't. You're aware of it, right? You know what I mean? But it was part of me that was taking a step back, and I was already reading this book, The Inner Game. It was honestly life-changing, Don. It was really like, I'm like, man, these are important things you want to learn. And it's helped me outside of the game in my own life because I've realized things about myself. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because, I was thinking to myself, you're actually, Eri, you're the type, you've always struggled with validation. You've always had validation issues ever since you were a kid. I mean, you know how you grew up. You've struggled with these things. So you know where this is coming from. These are not new things to you. These are things you're aware of. And even if you're aware of it, you'll still struggle with it. You know what I mean? It's just about trying to find a way that works for you eventually, doing things differently. So I said, you know what you're doing. You want to be associated with the best. You have these validation issues that you struggle with ever since. I mean, and you want to be associated with these. You want to be one of the good guys. You want to be one of the best. You want to be class O. And these are the things that you're valuing right now. And pool is something that I played ever since I was a kid. You know what I mean? That was a sport I enjoyed. I played that with my dad. I remember falling in love with the sport. It was great. I genuinely enjoy this game. I love playing this game. I do. But here you are, practicing, playing, and you're not enjoying. And this is a game that you supposedly love genuinely, but you're not enjoying it. When I realized that, I'm just like, and my wife always told me this because I guess I've always struggled with this about myself. He said, you should just enjoy yourself. And it's these little things. I mean, we all get, you realize things about yourself when you're supposed to, right? You have these aha moments.
Totally.
You can't force it on anyone. It's just gonna happen at your own time. So all these things, like my wife said, I never enjoyed myself. It just clicked when she said that. Oh, this is happening. I'm not enjoying pool, a game that I love so much. I'm not enjoying it. And when I realized that, I'm like, I remembered it. I'm like, okay, this is how it feels when you don't enjoy. I got it. I labeled it in my head. I said, all right, this is how it feels. This is the feeling. So I was aware of that feeling. And then I tried to remember the times when I was just enjoying. And when I won that tournament, when I was playing, you know what? You know what I was just so happy about, Donnie? I was just so happy that I was able to play my game.
Nice.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. I played my game. I played the way I wanted to and the way I wanted, and I just played my game. More than this title, more than this, this trophy, I was just so happy I was able to play my game. And that was the thing that just got me. I was so happy about that. You played the way you want. You played your game. You played the way you wanted to, the way how you wanted to. You just did it, man. You did it the way you wanted to. You didn't beat yourself. You just played it the way you did.
So would you say that's a big thing for Dota then too? You got to play the game your way, right?
Yeah, you gotta play the game your way, and I think, and this is just, I just didn't let these things that usually get in the way of being able to do that get to me at that time. But it got to me after I won, you know what I mean? Because I'm like, oh, everyone's calling me champ. It feels really good. And then I lost it. I lost it, bro, because I put, and again, it's removing judgment from your actions. You're just like, it's not good, it's not bad. They simply are what they are. And for me, that was the first step. And when I did that, I wrote this long Reddit post because I'm sure a lot of people go through the same thing with the game. So I'm going to share my thoughts and hopefully,
Yeah.
But
that's perfect.
And I think, that it's easier said than done, honestly, because we all have our own issues, Donnie. I'm sure we all struggle with our own things with our life. We all, go through certain dark phases, and that's normal. And those are valid, but
sure.
You got to accept them and just try to really, because what works for you might not necessarily work for the next person.
Right.
But I think the process is more or less the same. It's just you do it your way. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it is a climb, and it is, it is definitely a lot of work and a lot of honest conversations with yourself, and, knowing the difference, whether or not you're actually genuinely doing it properly or you're just saying it in your head. It's those type of things. But it's so worth it, bro. It's so worth it. It took me years. I'm 33 years old, man. But it's so worth it. And I think one thing that's also someone like you who's nurturing so many people, it's worth it because once you learn it, it's so much easier to instill that with a younger generation. You know what I mean? Because they're not really set so much. You know what I mean? You're just like, if you have someone and you instill that, let's say someone, in their teens or maybe even younger, someone, then that's just part of them already naturally. And it's harder to shake off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's something we're trying to do. That's something we're trying to do with our son. We just see, it's just innate. It's instinctual, and we want to protect that with him. You know what I mean? We want to make sure, okay, this is you. You're gonna go through shit, son. Your life is gonna pound you down, and it's gonna be fucking hard. But at least if these are the things that we can instill, eventually, at least you learn how to get yourself back up easier than someone who doesn't, hasn't learned these things at this early, or it's not instilled. So again, I mean, I'm Guardian 4, and I'm enjoying myself. I really am. Just a few days ago. Yeah, just a few days ago, I learned the difference of focusing on a certain hero on team fight. I just knew that because before I'm just like, okay, you're winning your lanes at my level. You're pulling, you're winning your lanes. My goal was to win just the first 10 minutes of the game. You know what I mean? That was my goal. And now, just 2 days ago, we played till 6 a.m, Donnie. I realized we were losing the game early. And I'm sorry, I'm just gonna clarify. I was winning the first 10 minutes. We were winning our lanes, but there were times where we still ended up losing. You know what I mean? And now I'm at this point for me with my own discovery where I'm just like, we lose at team fights, and I know team fights are very, they're very complex, and there are different ways that certain heroes, match up against others. But it was this team fight where we were losing early mid game, and they were beating us, and we made this decision. All right, let's focus on the Drow, because the Drow was basically doing the most damage, and we jumped at the Drow, and then after we jumped at the Drow, we jumped at the Witch Doctor. And then it was just us ignoring all these 3 cores. These other 3, and we were just focusing on either the Drow or the Witch Doctor, but it was mostly the Drow. We just jumped straight for the Drow because she was giving us the most problems. And bro, we won that team fight.
Of course.
And I'm like, wait, it's just, I can't describe how it was to realize that for myself for the first time.
You solved the problem for the first time.
Dude, and I just saw the difference. It's just like, and it's so fulfilling, bro. I'm just like, we won this team fight because we shifted our target.
Yeah.
We didn't focus on the bristleback, and obviously that's already self-explanatory. You don't focus on the bristleback. That's so stupid. We stopped. We said, fuck the bristleback. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Get the Drow. She's squishy. We can kill her easily. We killed the Drow. We killed the Witch Doctor, and we did that 3, 4, 5 more times until it was such a satisfying win, bro.
Yeah.
Oh my god. See, I'm still getting emotional right now. I feel it. I was playing out of my mind, man. I was just like, I was making these decisions so quickly and I was flowing, and that felt so good, dude. I'm Guardian 4, man. And I honestly that felt good, bro. It felt good.
There you go.
So yeah, I mean, that was for me so far. I think if I'm gonna share like the journey I'm at right now, it's just, I mean, I don't know how far I'm gonna get, but I think it would be worthwhile if you're just enjoying yourself every step of the way. You know what I mean? And I'm enjoying learning about the game. I'm genuinely enjoying. And what I really think about understanding it, like after my session with Purge, I said, Purge, the biggest thing about this is now I can get that much more connected with the community that's given me so much already. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because of Dota, I've been able to travel the world. I've been able to support, my family in a way. This community has given me so much because they chose to take me in. And now I can genuinely get excited for the same things you guys are excited about. It's also the reason why I think you reached out, right? I mean, I can have this conversation with you,
right? Because
I really, truly have really loved the game. Like, dude, I get it. It's fun. You know what I mean? And you're a Divine player, I'm a Guardian 4 player, and here we are talking about these things. You know what I mean?
Everybody's had the same experiences at the end of the day, right? Like,
in
varying degrees.
Yeah, and when I go on ESL or I host and I talk, eventually I can start talking to you guys at more intimate levels once I understand the game more. Or any when I'm walking around, I can just have a decent conversation. Like, oh, I love that lion T-shirt. You know what I mean? Right. I'll genuinely love that lion T-shirt because that's my fucking hero, man.
Sure.
It's these little things where I am able to actually build deeper connections with the community. It's been so good to me. And I don't take that for granted because you could have gotten any host, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Who would have done a job just as good. But you guys, this community took me in. And I'm so grateful for that because I'm like, man, I mean, look what I get to do, you know what I mean? I love entertaining people, and I can do memes better now. I can just meme the shit. I love memes. I love memeing out. So there's just so many things that I can do now on a level that, most would be able to connect with as well in this community, and that makes me very happy. You know what I mean? So that's something I'm also very grateful about.
Hey, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. We've been on the call for a while.
All good, man. All good. I've enjoyed the talk for sure.
I do want to ask you one other question that is kind of like pertaining to the journey, and that is, do you find that when you are learning a new hero, like, because each hero has different flavors, right?
Yes.
And do you find that you almost inevitably lose a lot of these things that make you enjoy the game or make you feel like you're competent? Like you're playing a new hero, and instead of being able to focus on anything macro, it's like, oh my god, how do I move this hero? How do I cast my spells? And suddenly you're back to square one, right? So there's like this entirely recursive journey that you have to go on every single time, right?
Absolutely. And this happened actually because thanks to your video, Donnie, I wanted to try out Grimstroke.
Okay.
Because you're just like, okay, S tier, Grimstroke. All right. Oracle I vibe with. And I think also there's certain heroes that, let's say if you try to hurt new hero, there's just some heroes that you just get. You know what I mean?
100%.
You know what I mean? It's just like, even if you played it for the first time, there's just like, all right, I love this hero. This hero feels good. You know what I mean? And I think it would be a different experience in that sense. You're just like, the whole dropping down to square one wouldn't be as bad because you really enjoy being at square one with that hero because you just get it, right? So, but that wasn't the case with Grimstroke. And that wasn't the case with most heroes, I think. There's certain heroes that I vibe with really nicely, but with Grimstroke, his movement speed was extremely slow, his attack and everything, and I'm just like, all his abilities are interesting, but I was just like, I wasn't enjoying. I was just like, okay, not Grimstroke. I know. Elevated said he's S tier, but not Grimstroke. Keeper more than Grimstroke.
Okay.
Oracle more than all those three for me. It's just, I think I expressed myself better with Oracle. So, and I've only played Oracle just a number of times, but yes, I do. And that's when a lot of the community has echoed, you know what, just focus on a hero pool. Don't focus on too much heroes, because you want to be instinctual with these heroes. You know what I mean?
Right.
Maybe just 3 or 4 or 5 at the most. You know, and I think I'm gonna follow that example and just. But I'm still on a constant discovery to see which those. I still will try new heroes, but I think I'll value if I enjoy playing that hero or not.
Yeah. Okay. So perfect. I was wondering what that was like, because even still for me now,
Yeah.
like I'll play a hero that I haven't played in like 6 months.
Yeah.
I will just feel so clueless, and the game will feel
It's
so
frustrating.
hard, and I will feel like I am awful, and I'll get frustrated easily, and I'm just like, how do I not play this hero well? Like, I played it before, or or it's similar to something else that I played, but there's something to be said about being like unconsciously competent at something, right? And being able to actually
Yes.
put it into practice under stressful situations.
Question though, like, you were able to play that hero 6 months ago. Was that because it changed because of the patch, or was it just like the hero pretty much played the same? It just felt different.
No, I really just think it has to do with. I think Dota is one of those games where if you are not currently up to date, as in like you played this hero yesterday, like it's gonna feel weird, because every hero has different move speed, turn rate, attack animation, spell cast animation.
You're right.
So you even see it in pros where like, GH's hero pool when they won TI7 was Keeper of the Light, Earthshaker, Elder Titan, and Tusk. He played 4 heroes for like the entire tournament. Maybe there was like 1 or 2 other ones, but they were played like once or twice, and that was it. And so if this is literally a TI winner who's only playing 4 heroes for like 30 or 40 straight games, because that's all he feels competent to play at the highest level at.
And that's fine.
Sure, put him on Magnus. He hasn't played it in 2 years. He's an amazing Magnus player, but I guarantee you he loses the game against the top tier competition. 100%.
Yeah, because you don't get to that instinctual place where you're just like flowing with your hero. It's like you are the hero at one point. You know what I mean? It's kind of like feel the car, you are the car sort of thing. It's
Exactly.
the same thing the same thing with the hero. You're just like, and it's so funny that you mentioned that, because I vibe with Lion, bro. I really do. But I recently played. Yeah, I know. Right now he does.
Yeah.
But I only realized how much he was not as competent right now when I played Shaman. So I played Shaman, and I'm just like, oh my god! I just feel that I'm contributing better to the team in the fights and just the entire game with Shaman right now, because Shaman is just essentially better than Lion right now. Hopefully that changes in a few patches.
Right.
But I'm loving Shaman, man. I'm like, oh my god, this is great. You know what I mean? And that's why I understood, like you have Jarak saying, looking at Earthshaker, you have Blitz looking at Storm, just hoping that they're better now.
Right.
And it's like, please bring this hero back, because I just love playing him. You know what I mean? So I guess is it about finding comfort heroes within the meta, right? I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that is a very interesting point that you bring up that makes it even harder for newer players to learn
Yeah.
because you are correct. And I have been so guilty of this so many times where I am like, this hero is good. It has to be good because I
Yeah.
am good at this hero.
Yeah.
And then you play a hero that's in the meta that pros are
Yeah.
picking that has a 60% win rate in pro level pubs, and you're like, what the hell is this game? I don't even have to
Yeah.
play. I just exist
Yes.
and I win. Like, how is this
Yes.
possible? I've been working so hard and so stressful every single game to win games on my favorite hero. And then I
Yeah.
play one of these good heroes, and the game is simple.
It's just easy. You're just
Yeah.
like, oh, and it's so frustrating to know that these minute changes to your hero, to your boy, to
Yeah.
your girl, you know what I mean, have paralyzed them in a way that you're like, you destroyed my boy, man.
Yeah.
Lion, that's my boy, man. You messed him up, and I can't play him. And you're looking. It's like you're looking at Lion's eyes, and you're looking like, I don't think this is the time for us right now. You know what I mean? We have to have this honest conversation, and this hurts for me to say. So,
But
I
then,
think, yeah,
sorry to interrupt you, but then there's the thing where like somebody's going to come along, and I mean, I have 250 games of Lion. I love Lion. I
Lion's
love
great.
Lion. There's something satisfying about using Finger of Death to blow people
Yes,
up. It's
that's
just
it.
so good.
That's it. And Purge has said the same thing. Is there any other skill that is satisfying when you kill as Finger of Death? And he's just like, nope.
Nope, there isn't. Maybe Calling Blade, but it's very, very close between those two.
I haven't tried a Culling Blade, so I have to try that.
But the thing is that this is where I feel like Dota is the most lacking because people have just boxed Lion in to position 5. He sits in the lane, he hits his stuns, and when the stun numbers are good, he's a good hero. But when the stun numbers are bad, he's a bad hero, right?
Yeah.
But if you actually look at the hero, he has a 90 damage talent at level 10. He has one of the best Aghanim Scepters in the game.
The best, one of the best. I agree.
I played him as an offlane like a month ago.
Shit. What the hell?
And I hit level 10 very quickly. I went treads.
Okay.
I had 8 kills in the lane.
Wow.
Because I was against a Juggernaut and I just played the range game and poked him and poked him and poked him, stunned him, killed him. And then I got Finger of Death, same thing, killed him. And then I roamed, got Finger of Death, another kill. I had like a 14-minute Aghanim Scepter.
Oh my god, that's
and
beautiful.
I straight up carried the game as an offlane Lion because I right-clicked for like 250 damage at 15 minutes into the game, and I had like
you got the 90 damage.
Hell yeah.
Sure. Hell yeah.
Yeah. So it was just a complete, paradigm shift of how the hero could be played. And is it good? I don't know. But if I do that in like 5 games, I'm going to get reported in 4 of them, So
yeah,
there's like something about this experimentation that's discouraged, unfortunately, because,
that can't be good.
Maybe the hero's not good, but maybe it's just not good the way it's being played. This
Maybe
happens over and over and over.
I mean, like I said, supports. It's just till one pro says, "No, boys, this is how it's done." You know what I mean?
Right.
They're like, guys, wait, this, and you're just like right now because of support sniper. How many pubs have just been validated by App Store last night? Seriously,
all of them.
They're like, hallelujah. He just created a religion.
That thing is in every single one of my games. Every single one.
He validated.
Exactly.
He won a grand final against VPP now. VP with Sniper. They won a game. They won a series in a grand final, and that just validates the thing. But if it can be done with Sniper, why can't it be done with all heroes? You know what I mean?
Right.
So I guess it's kind of like, it's not more of the hero. It's just encouraging the mindset of a community towards experimentation, right?
Yes, yeah.
Because that's fun. I mean, like, okay, what can we try? It's like, it's basically not putting down the experimentation rather than just like encouraging, I respect what you're trying to do, bro. I respect what you're, all right. I hope you figure it out, sort of thing. You know what I mean?
You know what I wish? I wish that you would only be able to unlock heroes in ranked if you had achieved like level 5 or something like that on Dota Plus on them. because then you've actually put in the work to understand the hero at some level. Like, I don't know if this would actually work, but just imagine if ranked was only people playing heroes that they had like 50 games on, and suddenly ranked becomes a place where everybody understands their heroes, instead of like this guy saw Thompson play Ember Spirit mid, and even though he's an amazing invoker and OD player, he's now playing Ember Spirit for the very first time in your ranked game.
Because you're rewarding that sort of
like competence
attitude. Yeah, you're just like, okay, wait, you have to be level 5. Sorry, you have to be a certain level 5, 50 games with the thing. Let me think. How would that work? If I was that and we played ranked, I wanted to play. I think it somewhat takes away the experimentation part of it as well.
It would for sure.
You know what I mean? Because it's basically say that you have to be good at a hero for it to play at this level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? It kind of discourages the whole experimentation that you just mentioned that would be great. You know what I mean? But you get to experiment it at normal matches. So it's not like you can't play that hero. It's just you also get to play that hero at the higher level.
Right.
Once
and then if you come into a game, and let's say you're like, if you are, let's say you're level 22 sniper, you've played 400 games of sniper, and somebody picks position 4 sniper and they're level 22 sniper, are you going to be like, oh, why would you pick that hero? You're probably going to be like, maybe this will work. He's got a lot of sniper games.
That is honestly interesting. It's interesting. I would say I would love to see how that would affect because I mean it's a good plan, but it's one thing when you have an idea, but when it's actually executed within the community, that's when you really see, okay, what sort of things will I think it would create a push and pull with the community, but I don't necessarily know if that's going to be good or bad. You know what I mean? So I think it's very interesting. I think it's like, all right, only unranked you get to play heroes that you played a decent amount of time with. I would lower it from let's say 10 games or maybe 20 games than 50.
I was just kind of just throwing out 50. Yeah, 50 is a lot for sure.
I would say 20, maybe 15, 20. Just, learn. I think 15 is a healthy number. You got 15 games with it, or maybe even 10 to 15, let's say. Just to enable to play it a little. Okay, maybe 20.
You're thinking about like your progress of learning a hero, right?
You're thinking about learning. I'm like, maybe more than that.
That's all right, so 5 games in, I finally figured out that I could read the skills by holding Alt, and then I actually understood what the skills did.
Maybe 20 games. So honestly, that's a really interesting idea, man. That's a really interesting idea. And honestly, I think you get so many interesting ideas from the community. And I mean, it's just having the open forum with Valve, I think, has been a echoing frustration I've seen, where you have all these wonderful ideas, but I don't know if there's necessarily a forum for it or an open, you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's not just in our game; it's just with so many other things as well. But we obviously have a solid amount of people who's been playing this ever since 10 years ago, and I really, really hope, and this is I'm a 33-year-old that got into the game after playing it, finally giving it another shot since 4 years ago, and I'm enjoying myself. So it's really that much of a wonderful game, and I do hope Valve takes care of it. I really do, because it does mean a lot to a good number of people. So I really hope they take care of it, because this is the type of game that you can express yourself with for a very, very long time. Very long time. Like, this could easily last decades if you wanted it to.
Yeah.
It could just evolve.
Completely agree.
Yeah.